Welcome back to Metaphorically Speaking and Leading with Molly Nece. Today in part 2 of Mind Like Moon, Mind Like Water, we're really going to focus on some of the strategies on having that empty mind. How do we empty that mind, clear our negative thoughts, and become self-aware and fear-free? And also, how do we create a free-flowing mind, one that keeps calm, focused on the task, doesn't judge, and sees life clearly as it is, rather than how it should be? Let's face it, the empty self is not necessarily a romantic term, but it's a metaphor for a mind that is not in reaction. It's a mind that is free of identification. The empty self comes from understanding what fills the self up, not by forcibly trying to become empty. So this concept of empty self is also called no mind. Empty self or no mind is not disturbed by thoughts of fears and the constant challenges of the external environment. It is a mind that is not stuck. It's free-flowing mind like into a stream of water, as we discussed in part 1. So this empty mind is the mind of this healthy person. It sees life clearly as it is rather than how it should be. So the mind really focuses on the activity and not in the evaluation, and therefore really creates a non-judgmental awareness of what is. So in a practical way of being empty, non-judgmental, one really concentrates on the task at hand, and one does not get thrown off by thinking that creates fear. So as discussed, the practice of karate with no mind really increases the self-awareness and concentration, which also has benefits in one's daily life. Now, of course, I'm not going to teach you karate, but I am going to kind of walk you through what the cycle of an untamed mind is. So, many of us think that our mind is designed to host a constant stream of thoughts, and there is nothing we can do about it. The mind is in charge, and we just follow. The buzzing can't stop, and we can't make it stop. Well, this isn't true. It can't be farther from the truth. So your mind is a tool that you can control, if you choose to. It can be an asset that allows you to experience wonderful things, but it can also be a source of pain and misery if you let it fixate on the negative things, such as fear and all the things that come with it. So take a look at the cycle. An untamed mind really lives on feeding the same thoughts and generating the same experiences. And by the diagram, you can see a typical cycle is something like this. And you may be asking, well, what's wrong with this cycle? Well, there's nothing wrong with it if you're feeling good and experiencing what brings you joy. But if you're reacting based on negative thoughts and limiting beliefs, you won't have control and you will negatively react most of the time. The mind tends to dwell more in the negative than the positive. I know you know this. So, how do we get an empty mind? Here's how we need to break the cycle. Here's a picture of an empty mind. To empty your mind is really to release what's taking precious space in your mind and heart that's not serving you. So once you process what's on your mind, you really gain perspective and you act when needed from clarity and truth. In other words, you're no longer feeding that loop that we talked about in the cycle of the untamed mind. So what do? This empty mind has a few characteristics. It's aware, it's peaceful, it's intuitive, it's really free from judgment and worry, it's creative, in other words, allowing inspiration and new ideas to come in, it's relaxed, in other words, it releases stress and really fosters well-being, and it's energized. No effort is wasted on unwanted thoughts anymore. Wow, utopia, right? No, not utopia. Here are 8 simple ways to begin to empty that mind of yours. First, let's talk about breathing. Yes, we all breathe. But how do you breathe? When you breathe deep, it's truly a relaxation technique. And it's well documented, a way to really regain some mental clarity. Deep breathing really increases the oxygen levels in your body. In other words, the brain benefits from more oxygen. Great, right? So when you breathe deep, you can take in and release fully, not the short little breaths. I used to do short breaths is the only way I took in oxygen. So when I started to breathe deep, especially when I gained that awareness of, I'm feeling under attack or something's coming into my sphere I wasn't anticipating, that made a difference. So breathe deep. Next, I want you to move often. Your mind and your body are connected. So as you move, you release thoughts and improve or at least maintain your health. It doesn't matter what kind of exercise you do, as long as you do it with intention of releasing what's on your mind. So moving the body is a great way to really shake up and release that stuck energy. So if you like doing cardio, walk, run, bike, or dance, or perhaps yoga or Pilates, by all means do it. Stretching will also ease that tension. So as you breathe deep and talk to yourself as you exercise, you're really going to also boost your self-esteem and visualize all the unwanted thoughts leaving when you exhale. So with exercise, you're releasing this negativity and really energizing your mind and body. Sometimes, let's face it, I work in a building where sometimes I just take a short walk around the building. It will give you that temporary distance from your thoughts. And actually, often when I come back in, I get a new sense of just clarity and recentering. That's what we're talking about. Empty that mind. It is really ideal to really, if you don't want to get sweaty during the workday or whatever it is, simply walking around the building might be just enough that you need to really release that anxiety and really just grabbing hold of our thoughts so we can gain that clarity. Next, number 3 is eat well. Easier said than done, right? Well, easier said than done. There's a lot of people who are choosing to do it because they know it affects their thoughts. Your diet affects your mind as much as your body. If you can, consume less alcohol, caffeine, refined sugar, and harder to digest foods. Eat the best quality foods you can and pay attention to how your energy levels changes. It's powerful. So when you empty your mind, you unlearn and let go of the unhealthy thoughts and beliefs that are holding you back, and then you'll open up to even more knowledge and wisdom. So you're feeding your body and you're feeding your mind. And number 4, draw it out. People have different learning styles and preferred means of communication, and I get it. But for those of us who like a little bit of physical and visual styles, drawing may be a way to combine both of these styles to clear your thoughts. So draw a simple picture that shows what's on your mind. You can make charts, graphs, other images. You can just write words or phrases down about the things on your mind and draw connections between them. Draw stick figures and give them word balloons or display what's bothering you. Just give it a try. Just draw it out. Next, maybe you want to write it down. Maybe you don't enjoy drawing. Maybe you want to write it down. Writing is proven to help organize your thoughts. Actually, morning pages, it was popularized by Julia Cameron. It's called The Artist's Way. And it's a way to adopt the habit of clearing your mind on paper. It's 3 handwritten pages done daily, can really clear out your conscious thoughts. Some people actually write memoirs as a way of more in depth to clear their consciousness, but we're not trying to do that here. Let's face it. We're just trying to open up some space for your thoughts to breathe. So really, it's one of my favorite choices is writing it down. Dr. Panabaker has this theory of emotional writing in which you say, what's on your mind? What kind of feelings is it causing you? What have you done so far? What do you have left to do? And what are you going to do? And what's going to happen if you don't do anything about it? So again, what I love about Dr. Panabaker is he says only do it for 20 minutes a day. So you might be able to do it in 20 minutes. You might have to do this activity for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. Just grab a piece of paper. But if you do it on your computer, make sure to disable the spell check. You don't want the distraction of those squiggly red lines or whatever it looks like on your computer, but really talk about and start typing out what you're feeling at that moment. And don't pay attention to the spelling or grammar. And don't stop to highlight what's important or try to feeling judging and saying, oh, I need to expand on that and write why I'm feeling this way. Just write it down. Your mind is going to play tricks on you to get you to analyze and justify your thoughts. Just keep going in your writing and remind yourself that you're taking it out and don't need to explain a thing. You're going to feel lighter. You just took a big load off your mind. You may get an insight or maybe even an action you need to take. Make sure you put these findings in a journal, because you might be one to say delete after you write. But if you have some of that awareness, that keen insight, write it down so you hold on to it because typically it's when you're faced with it again. So it takes you shorter to really get to that empty mind. So we covered a lot of really great tips. We've covered breathe deep, move often, eat well, draw it out, write it down. Well, number 6 is talk it through. Describe your desired, end state that you want to be in, then work backwards. This is really called backward planning, and it could come in handy for this mental blockage you might be experiencing. If you have a big job coming up and you don't have a lot of time to do it, start with your target date and then move backwards. So figure these things out. In order to untangle a string, we really need to find the end and then work our way back to the beginning. Think about it. Another metaphor. But maybe you need to talk it out with another person. Because what's great about talking out with another person, who's willing to listen, it really explains your problems or concerns with them. But here's the point. The point is not to force them to solve your problems for you. The objective is to express your hopes, fears, and questions. So if you can describe your concerns and can understand them better and determine what's important and what isn't. That's why coaching is becoming a really popular thing to do, is to have that sounding board. Not for them to give you the answers, that's a consultant, but to them to ask you the questions and for you to ask them the questions so that you can grow through your own thoughts. You have it in your head. You need to work through them. So, talk it through. Next, meditation. Meditation is the best way to calm your overactive mind. It's really simple and requires only a couple things: stillness and your willingness to do it. But so what you really do is find a quiet place. It could be in your office, at home, or even in the car. Just make sure it's parked. But anyhow, set a timer for 10 or 20 minutes, whatever you can do. But don't do more than 20 minutes, especially if you're a beginner. Start with a shorter interval, and you're going to sit upright on the floor in a chair, but you're going to close your eyes and start focusing on your breath. Take a few breaths and follow your breath. Think of a few things that you're thankful for and name them in your mind. Then smile. As you continue to smile, follow your breath. Inhale, exhale. When your time's up, stop and get on with your day. So you may be faced with a couple of challenges through this meditation process. Your mind is really going to resist in the beginning, and you're going to get bored. It will be an attempt to really repeat the same thoughts that fed its compulsion. We already talked about that, right? So notice them as they come along and let them be. The moment you notice a thought, it will go on its merry way. So you will be tempted to really keep checking the time too. If you feel the urge, do it more and more. And you'll remind yourself less and less and less, and just trust the timer. So don't look at the clock. Put a timer. Set your phone. Cell phones now have timers. So your mind is going to wander, and you will lose focus on your breath at times. That's all normal. Awareness comes in waves. Just ride it as long as you can, and then catch the next one. So if you have a hard time really focusing on your breath, start counting with each breath. When you lose your count, start from 1 again. I've found it helps to count in English or and just do it. Don't be like, uno, dos, tres, getting creative. No, just do it in your mother tongue, English. But really, they're variations. You can also repeat a certain mantra to yourself. A mantra might be, I enjoy living a life of purpose with passion and persistence. I have both money and time for family. Whatever those mantras are, pick them. Pick one that resonates with you. If you're like, what's a mantra? Believe me, Google it. Google the word mantra, and you will find a ton to choose from and many that resonate with you. So I've shared with you that you're going to have some challenges. Accept them. It's a part of the process. And smile as much as you can. And by the end of your time, you'll feel calmer and more at peace. You can handle your day and what comes your way. It's getting into that empty mind space so that you can have a clear mind and react appropriately. So the next one, reach out for help. You know what? You might have done all the things that I've already said. You know what? There's sometimes you need to go to the expert, to go to the next level to resolve these problems. If your thoughts are resulting in really serious anxiety and you can't really function normally, you may need to talk to a medical professional. Nothing is wrong with that. You are smart because you're doing it. At some point, you have to make the determination whether you can handle the situation yourself or whether or not you need help. It's perfectly okay. We all encounter problems where it makes more sense to get help than to try to do it by ourselves. So, there are your 8 steps, or not even steps, just solutions. Just try, see what works. Don't give up. Having that empty mind is key to enjoying life. It's attaining that thought of mind and water and mind and moon. Mind like moon and mind like water is something that is just hold true to your heart and mind, because that empty mind is what's going to allow you to really achieve what you want to achieve out of life. So the positive outcome, you're going to be able to respond with intelligence and choose a more nonviolent, creative way to handle your problems. Isn't that worth everything that I've just talked about? If you need more help, reach out, contact me. This is where we grow. We grow together and we grow through in emptying that mind. Here's to having a mind like moon and a mind like water as we build on excellence.